Howdy, welcome back. Today we're looking at a Stoeger STR-9 that came with a Burris Fastfire 3 red dot as well from Cabela's. Apparently they sold a bunch of these to Cabela's and Bass Pro in a package. Got it for $2.99 including the optic, which is a pretty good deal. Anyway, Youth Handgun Safety Act, the Fastfire 3 optic, the lock that goes in the garbage, and the loader that probably can go in the garbage, an extra magazine. These are 15 round magazines. These are the mounting plates for the optics, and they are all steel, which is good. And this is the tool to take off the stupid worthless trigger lock, which will also go in the garbage when we get that off. So another magazine. This is a 15 round magazine. And that is the pistol. It looks kind of like a hybrid between the Glock and the M&P. Up here, the M&P, kind of nice profile here. Forward slide serrations, which are somewhat shallow. They're angled backwards though, kind of like, you can see that the serrations go that way. Anyway, let's get this trigger lock off. Oh, you also get the owner's manual under the Burris. Okay, so a piece of crap trigger lock goes in the garbage. And this is I guess you would wear that around your wrist to show your proud Stoeger colors while you're running a marathon. So it's optics ready. Screws are standard flathead screws. Feels a little grindy and cheap, which you might expect, but up and down, left and right feels passable. All right, let's check the chamber and then check the trigger. That's not bad. It's pretty smooth for a crappy, cheap striker fired gun. I've had many Glocks that are way worse than this. So there's, as you can tell, there's lots of creep. So there's a little bit of take up. It's, spring tension feels pretty high right now. And then it hits a sort of a soft wall there, and then you're gonna roll through it and then snap. There's not a lot of over travel after it actually breaks. That's good. So let's put it on a trigger tester. All right, let's try to do this without dragging anything along the bottom of the foam. Okay, I gotta defeat the safety first. There we go. It's 5.5 pounds. It's about what it felt like. It's not bad at all. About 5.5 pounds again. Yeah. So, must say, pleasantly surprised with the trigger. This is a Glock that has a few thousand rounds on it. And I think it has a minus connector, I'm not sure. 5.5, or 5 pounds, 5 ounces. Five and a quarter. So very close to a nice Glock trigger with, I think it has a minus connector in that one. So yeah, it seems probably pretty shootable. So let's take it apart, make sure that there's nothing weird. Now I've read that it's like the Glock, but it's not exactly like the Glock. Whereas I think you're supposed to pull these down first. So pull it, slide back a little bit. This is weird with the camera in the way. Pull those back first, then pull the trigger. Yeah, so this is the captured single spring flat mainspring. Recoil spring. Like the Gen 3 Glocks. Barrel looks very similar to Gen 3 Glocks. Rifling actually looks polygonal, or at least the, yeah, I don't know about that. I can't imagine that it would be, but maybe they just do them all the same way. But it doesn't look like standard cut rifling. I'm probably wrong on that. Anybody who's ever seen an inside of a Glock slide is very familiar with this. This looks just like a Gen 3 Glock. Looks like Glock. Hopefully works like a Glock. Machining looks good. Let's get a little bit of just some oil along these rails just for fun. And then wipe out the excess. And we'll also put a squirt of oil on the muzzle and the locking surface right here, the slide. Goes back together just like a Glock. Make sure that's seated against the barrel. And yeah, this is all very Glocky. Very 3rd gen Glock. I think it's the same. It would be a 3-pin if there were a pin here, but they just, that doesn't look like that trigger assembly comes out. Maybe it does, I don't know. Anyway, it looks very, very much like a Glock with the cross here, the connector here. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't know, maybe they would interchange. I'm not gonna try it, but it looks very much like a Glock with better ergonomics. Back together, function check. Let's weigh them real quick. So this is the Stoeger STR-9 without a magazine. 22.8 ounces, or 1 pound 6 ounces, or 647 grams. This is a Glock 17 with the Talon grip, so that might add an ounce or so. 24 ounces on the dot, or 1 pound 8 ounces, or 680 grams. And this is the Glock 19 with a crappy paint job, which may have added an ounce or so. 21.5 ounces, 1 pound 5.5 ounces, or 609 grams. And the magazine weighs 83 grams, or 2.9 ounces. By the way, it does take apart just like a Glock, so contrary to what you may have seen in other videos, you can just pull the trigger in a safe direction. Pull back the slide a little bit like a Glock, and it does come right off. So you don't have to pull down the disassembly lock lever, whatever it is, and then pull the trigger. That's not correct information. And then make sure that when you put it back on, make sure that the recoil spring guide is fully seated on the barrel, or else it won't want to go back on. What else are we missing here? There we go. Okay, so the first time I took a look down the sights, see if I can get this to focus on the front sight here. There you go. You can see that the paint on the front sight is not great. There's basically just a big kind of a gray splotch on the side of the front sight paint. So you could probably just put a dot of the paint of your choice in there. And then the sights are steel and are dovetailed, which is nice. This one has a locking screw, the rear one. Quality steel sights, 3 dots. I don't really love those, but I do like the fact that they're steel and that they're dovetailed into the slide. They seem like high quality sights. So let's try it, see what it looks like. Shoot. I wanted to do a real quick grip comparison. So the Stoeger has a somewhat long grip for a 15 shot pistol. Nowadays, this would be a 17 round gun, like the Glock 17. So the Glock feels blockier and longer front to back, but the length is very similar. So I'm getting my full fingers, all my fingers on the grip itself. And the Glock 19 leaves me with about half of a finger off. At least I have large hands. L or XL sized in gloves, usually XL. So I get, you know, the finger grooves go right into my fingers, which is not good. That's why I don't like those finger grooves on the Gen 3s and Gen 4s, but the bottom of the grip is the middle of my pinky, or thereabouts. And that's a 15-shot Glock, where the Stoeger STR-9 is the full-sized pistol, and it is Glock 17 size frame and just about halfway between Glock 17 and 19 in length. So it's got a shorter barrel and slide assembly compared to the Glock 17. So it's kind of like it's a little bit longer, just a tad longer than the Glock 19. So you can think of it as a Glock 19 sized frame, Glock 19 sized barrel and slide assembly on a Glock 17 sized frame. But the Stoeger gets 15 round magazines. Kind of like the old Berettas and SIG 226s, which now hold, 17 or 18 in flesh fit magazines, modern flesh fit magazines. But for the Stoeger, they're very good quality as far as I can tell, but they're 15 shot. I bet they could probably fit 17 in there with a different follower. And maybe they'll do that at some point. And these are stamped made in Italy. I imagine that they are probably made by Mekgar, which is a good thing. Mekgar makes really excellent magazines. Haven't had any issues with these so far. All right, so this is hopefully the first shots fired out of the Stoeger STR-9. We're at about 7 yards. I'm just gonna see where the sights are regulated here. I'm gonna try to hold just below the red center dot. So, right there. So I was holding with the top of the front sight right here, and I prefer my guns to shoot just above the front sight at this distance. So it's definitely a combat or a center hold, as I've seen in other videos as well. Group looks passable, probably through that one. Let's try it on some steel. All right, let's see how the Stoeger STR-9 does on steel at about 18 yards. Shoots pretty favorably. The sights are pretty sharp. So when you do an overhand rack, you want to make sure you're not getting the edges of the sight. They're not razor sharp, but they're not, I guess you want to have a little bit of a lip there in case you need to do a slide manipulation off of your belt or whatever. At the rear edges of the slide are very sharp right here. So you can feel that if you're coming over the top or whatever. Trigger is great. For a striker fired pistol, it's very acceptable trigger already. The sights are definitely center hold, so I was having to cover the plates with the dot at this distance. I usually hold probably lower third to get a center hit, with my sights the way I usually have my pistols regulated. So if I'm going to use this in competition or something with these sights, I would have to put a different front sight on it. Or if you like combat hold, then that's perfect for you. It's very similar to the Beretta 92 that I have, which actually hits lower than this. It's a Brigadier, and it hits very low. And the Beretta PX4 Storm is similar as well. So it's set up similar to those pistols. Ergonomically, though, this is far superior to the Glock. The backstrap is replaceable. It doesn't come with backstraps. This package didn't. You can probably get them separately, I imagine, from Stoeger or Beretta. The checkering on the backstrap is very coarse, but it's not painful, which is, you want it to be grippy. You want it to, when you get a good grip on it, it definitely feels like it's digging into your hand a little bit. The stippling on the finger grooves and the sides of the backstrap is passable. It's pretty slippery. It's not like an M&P 2.0 or anything. It looks like it would grip your hands okay, but it does grip your hands okay. It's okay. It's not great. I would rather have some stippling up in here and along here. I don't know why. Maybe for cost, but I can't imagine it's much more expensive to have your mold made so that this part here is stippled as well. There's no reason for that to be slippery. It's one thing I don't like about it. But, on this one, the magazine catch is nicely located, functions good, and it appears to be swappable. So the mags are cut with ambidextrous slots. So if I read the manual, I'm sure it would tell me that you can flip that around to the other side. So overall, pretty impressed for the money. Slide stop is a little bit more extended than on the Glock. It's kind of more like the old Smith & Wesson Sigma. You can say that without gagging. That was one of my first pistols, actually. And that had a similar style flat slide lock lever or slide stop, whatever you want to call it. Let's shoot some more. And let's get a different angle here. Yeah, the grip feels good. Took my earbud out, or my earphone, sorry, my earplug. So I'm going to put that in before I shoot. Okay, got my earplug back in. That would have been a surprise. I think overall that Stoeger has more recoil than a Glock 17 or the Glock 19. I think probably due to the slide being heavier, or maybe just the dynamics of the spring rates that they have chosen. But it's not a painful recoil by any means, but it does jump a bit, and it feels a little more top heavy with the magazines out. The Glock definitely feels lighter. I think probably because the top end is lighter. The Stoeger seems to want to, like, if you tried to put your, balance it on your trigger finger, the Stoeger is going to roll off because it feels like there's a lot more mass up here. Let's weigh the slides assemblies and double check. So the Stoeger is complete upper assembly is 487 grams. This is a 521 grams for the Glock 17 size, and this is the Glock 19 471 grams. So I don't know. My calibrated hand is obviously not correct. This is the Glock frame empty, 160 grams. And this is the Stoeger, identical. So maybe it's just that the, I don't know why it would, but it definitely feels top heavy, the Stoeger compared to the Glock, at least with the guns empty. Just for fun, let's weigh them without the barrels and main spring assembly, or the recoil spring assembly. This is the Stoeger, 355 grams. And this is the Glock, 394 grams. So, yeah, my calibrated elbow is obviously off. All right, let's try a little quick back-to-back with the Glock. The recoil impulse is similar. The Glock feels a little bit softer to me. That may be because the angle is, your wrist is more locked out with the increased angle of the Glock. Or it may just be the Glock polymer. They've refined that flex over the years. Or it may be the recoil springs are different, or what, but it's not. It's noticeable if you shoot them right after the other, but it's not something that you would go, oh, this is way worse, or way more muzzle flip. It does seem to take a little bit longer for the sights to come back on target with the Stoeger. May just be because I'm used to shooting the Glock. But as far as a functional, good-looking, nice shooting 9mm striker-fired handgun, for the money, I'm not sure you're going to be able to do much better than this. At least at this point, I'm very impressed. The gun is effectively $200, and I've seen them for sale for $219 or whatever, just for the gun itself. And as noted earlier, this one came with a Fastfire 3 optic, which is they usually sell for about $170 to $200 by themselves. They're not super durable, but they have functioned very reliable for me. Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Helps with the algorithm to let Google know that you enjoy this content. Consider sending me a super thanks, or subscribing, or joining Patreon. You could be the first Patreon supporters if you join. Thanks, have a good day.